So before I overanalyze and pick this death battle apart, I'll make it clear that I don't actually have too much of a problem with the outcome of Wukong winning. I think it's perfectly possible for Wukong to win by most metrics. My problem is primarily the execution of the fight and bits and pieces of the analysis, as I know quite a bit about Journey to the West and enough about Heracles' myth to, I guess add something meaningful to the conversation. This video will be split into a couple of parts, so feel free to skip to the timestamps if some portions don't concern you. Death Battle's logic throughout the fight and how it's presented is rather flawed. After the fight ends, at the 19-minute mark, they compare the Xiezjing's poison to the Hydra poison that Hercules uses, and the hosts say that it could have incapacitated Wukong just how the Xiezjing poison incapacitates Wukong, noting that it's the only chance that Hercules can get a drop on Wukong if Wukong doesn't dodge it with his much higher speed. Cue this. There's no indication that this Wukong is in the original version after Hercules unleashed his Crotella, and the fact that this Wukong laughs to himself should be more indication that this likely is the original version, and the narration suggests that as well. Even if this was a clone, it should either be affected by the poison or disappear, instead of going back to its original form and flying up to deliver the staff attack. Now, I'm aware that his 72 transformations maybe allows him to negate the poison, like how Yang Jian in Fengshen Yi does the same against Lü Yue's plague, but that's not Death Battle's logic over there. In addition to that, Death Battle claims that Wukong and Hercules have similar tiers of boundless strength due to universal holding, so I guess it's fair to say that they're evenly matched. I suppose it'd be fair to assume that they have similar tiers of endurance as well, given their bodies were capable of sustaining those forces. So, rhetorical question right here, why exactly does Wukong kill Hercules with this blow right here when they have similar strength levels, smashing him into smithereens no less? There's no indication that Hercules is horribly tired at this point in the fight, so why go with this outcome? A more probable outcome would be both parties getting blown away and Hercules' arms suffering damage, or just being smashed like how Hercules' blow did to Wukong's head, allowing Wukong to outlast him. I'll admit, I'm probably not a resident Hercules expert here, so this will be short. While Death Battle does factor in some pretty cool feats like holding up the sky and threatening to shoot the sun like Hou-Yi, I feel like it could have added in other aspects. Hercules is immensely popular, so there's a bit too much to go over in a single video, but I'll focus on two things. First, Hercules might very well have his own immortality hacks, like the time where he personally wrestled off Thanatos. That said, he also did die to the other centaur dudes' machinations, so I'd like to emphasize on the second point. Remember Hercules' sword breaking pretty early into the fight, presumably because it wasn't a divine weapon? Well, in Vulgate Merlin, Hercules is said to have the sword Marimados, forged by Vulcan, which is a divine weapon in its own right and said to be stronger than Excalibur. That could have been useful, or just not call him Hercules and call him Heracles throughout the whole thing. I know they're using classic Heracles, but it still bugs me when they call someone Hercules, and it's not the Roman one. Now, onto some nitpicks regarding Death Battle's analysis. Just to give a short definition of the term nitpick, it's basically detecting problems that ultimately aren't terribly consequential to the product, like how you get scratches on your car. It's not nice to look at, but it won't impede the car's performance. They're not problems that will directly affect the outcome of the fight. So, if you don't feel like watching me poke at menial parts of their analysis, feel free to skip to the Wukong section. In the analysis, it said that Wukong can turn into a fighting temple. While I guess this is in the realm of his abilities, the instance shown isn't actually accurate to the Journey of the West, considering the actual interaction consists of Erlong seeing through his disguise and Wukong running away. They also note that Wukong always had a counter to Erlong's transformations, which isn't exactly true. That was more of Erlong's thing to counter Wukong, like when Wukong turned into a fish, Erlong turned into some bird of prey I forgot the name of. Even then, they were basically drawing from the same pool of powers, so ultimately, it's not a big deal. I'm also not sure why when Wukong's head gets smashed, it's clearly bloody, but when Hercules gets smashed, it's all ink. I know that Wukong's staff has the inky graphics, but having Hercules explode into complete ink is a bit silly. Wukong also notes that he hasn't had this much fun ever since he fought Heaven, which I find somewhat odd considering he's had a decent number of challenges during the course of Journey to the West that tried him as hard or harder than Heaven. To be fair, there might be a chapter in Journey to the West that I overlooked which specified that he really did have the most fun while wrecking Heaven, but ultimately not an important detail. Now, as for Wukong, the first critique I have for Death Battle would be Wukong's feat of lifting Shimi Mountain. While yes, the mountain is the axis of the Buddhist cosmos, an important thing to note here is that now we're in the text of Journey to the West seems to treat it as anything but. For more context, a demon casts spells to drop Shimi Mountain atop Wukong, then Mei Mountain and Tai Mountain. Just to give Wukong some credit, after the demon drops Mei Mountain, Wukong still bursts after Sanzang. During this little mountain hike, Wukong is still described to be as fast as a comet, before finally getting put down by Tai Mountain dropping on his head, so good on him. The demon is later revealed to be a Taoist, and there are no disastrous consequences mentioned by the story for launching the literal universal axis mountain atop Wukong. The fact that the story is very pro-Buddhism over Taoism makes this even stranger, as having some random Taoist mess around the literal Buddhist cosmos mountain would be a bit counterintuitive to the story's messages, wouldn't it? So, yes, while Wukong is ridiculously strong, taking it as face value of, oh, he handled the Cosmos Mountain, is a bit silly when the story itself doesn't treat the mountain as such. Or, if you want to get into Buddhist cosmology, it doesn't help Wukong's case either. Before we go into that, I'll be using the term yojana quite a bit, and while its equivalents occasionally differ, let's just use the biggest value and say 1 yojana is equivalent to 9 miles. Shimi Mountain is in total 160,000 yojanas high, and 80,000 yojanas for both its width and length. And that's not even getting into the middle area of the mountain, which got the hourglass treatment, which means it has reduced mass and weight there. So, if Death Battle really wanted to get into Buddhist cosmology like they did with Greek cosmology, then the height of this mountain is only around 1.4 million miles. Lifting it is pretty strong of Wukong, but the point is, no matter what way you take it, whether you focus on Journey to the West, or decide to dive into Buddhist cosmology, even when I'm not a big versus battle person, I think I don't have to explain why the 1.4 million high mountain isn't as heavy as our universe like they've treated for Hercules. It's probably not boundless. As is presented in the post-battle analysis, the kicker part of the fight is Wukong's speed, even though the final blow was seemingly a contest of strength. That said, the text of Journey to the West specifically states he travels to the edge of the heavens, or sky, which in Buddhist cosmology probably means the Triastrimsa. I don't know how to pronounce this, but let's go with that. And the Triastrimsa is also 80,000 yojanas squared in terms of area. Even if we gave the most generous distance in having Wukong jump approximately 1 million miles from one corner to the diagonal opposite in 1 second, I think I don't have to explain why it's a far cry from a quintillion times the speed of light. Additionally, throughout the 2 versions of Journey to the West I've read, neither specify how long it actually took Wukong to reach the end of the sky, simply that he went there and returned. So, that's another kick in the bucket against the measurement of Wukong's speed. Furthermore, this is entirely my preference, but I feel like it'd be a far more interesting fight to see a slower, weaker, but more versatile opponent to match up against a stronger and faster opponent who's also more limited in terms of stamina and the hits he can take. Sure, I feel like Wukong would still have a great chance of winning, especially if he played the smart due to his clones and layers of immortality, or the fact that he can shoot out millions of weapons at once, but it also provides a bit more tension with the arrows capable of incapacitating him on a wrong move. Sources and links will be in the description or placed in a pinned comment. I haven't really watched enough of Death Battle to compare Hercules and Wukong to its other episodes. I overall enjoyed the animation style, as well as the majority of the choreography. There's a good amount to praise about the episode, but that's not the point of this video. This video was fairly fun for me to make, though I doubt that I'll be making things like this long term, because I'm primarily making this on the basis of having read on Wukong's mythos and such. If you want to see my other work or what I'm working on right now, you can go to Atalancia's channel. I'm currently recording and editing a Tears of Themis dub for her, so thanks for watching the video. If you have any corrections or comments, do tell me. I'd like to get more context on this topic. This is UFVA. See you guys.